Life often challenges us in overwhelming ways. Anxiety, fear of the future, lack of peace. How many sleepless nights have been spent on such thoughts? The feeling of carrying the weight of the world on one's shoulders is something many can relate to, especially when answers don't come and purpose seems distant. It's precisely at this point that trusting in God makes a difference, and perhaps it's the key you've been looking for without even knowing it. Trusting in God isn't just an abstract idea or a magic formula to solve all problems overnight. It's a process, a building of inner peace and faith that involves genuine surrender, the practice of patience, and, yes, gratitude for the small things. It may sound counterintuitive, but the more we let go of control and trust in His timing, the more peace and purpose we discover. And it's not something you do alone. Walking with God is strengthened by the support of a community that shares these values, through sincere prayer and the pursuit of patience. In this video, you'll find paths to transform the way you face challenges and to discover, once and for all, how to live with less anxiety and more purpose. Do you want to know how? Trusting in God is like a balm for anxiety. When life presents us with financial problems, health issues, or relationship conflicts, it can be easy to get lost in worry. But by remembering what Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7 says, we are called to surrender our anxieties to God. It's as if each worry, once surrendered, dissolves and is replaced by genuine peace. This peace goes beyond understanding, it's a tranquility rooted in knowing that we are not alone on this journey. Think about how natural it is to worry about the future, about what's coming. What will happen with my job? And my health? Anxiety arises when we try to control what is beyond our reach. Trusting in God is releasing that weight and resting, knowing He cares for every detail. Imagine someone who decides to surrender their daily worries through prayer. At the end of the day, they find peace in praying and recognizing that, uncertain as the future may seem, God always knows what is best. A simple example is setting aside a moment of your day to reflect on all the worries that torment you and, through prayer, surrender them to God. By practicing this daily, you not only relieve the burden of uncertainties but also create space for an inner peace that only trust can bring. Praying for wisdom and surrendering every detail to God, from the smallest to the largest, makes life lighter and clearer. Surrendering everything to God doesn't mean difficulties will disappear, but it changes how we face them. Instead of letting anxiety dominate us, trusting in God acts as a shield that guards our hearts. And by giving each day to Him, a peace is born that keeps us steady to face whatever may come. After all, the journey is just beginning here, as we soon delve into the importance of faith to sustain this trust. Faith is the foundation that upholds our trust in God, especially in difficult moments. When challenges seem greater than our abilities, faith reminds us we are not alone. The Bible offers us stories of people like Moses and David, who faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Moses, standing before the Red Sea, trusted that God would make a way. David, facing the giant Goliath, believed in victory based on his faith. These stories are not there by chance, they show us that, with faith, we can find strength where it seemed there was none. Faith acts like an anchor, grounding us in God, especially when everything around us feels uncertain. Many wonder how to develop this faith, and the answer lies in seeking to know God more through Scripture and prayer. Reading Bible passages that speak of trust and gratitude, such as Psalm 23, help solidify our trust that God is our shepherd, our guide, our protector. It is this daily nurtured knowledge that strengthens our faith to face challenges with confidence. To grow faith, it's helpful to draw inspiration from the examples of those who persevered in trusting God. When facing uncertain moments, try to remember a Bible story or verse that brings strength and peace to your heart. Like Moses and David, our faith grows stronger when we remember what God has already done in our lives or in the lives of others. This practice helps us view challenges from another perspective, not as obstacles but as opportunities for spiritual growth and learning. Faith also encourages us to look beyond visible circumstances. It invites us to look toward the future with hope, assured that, even though we don't have all the answers now, God does. This perspective of faith allows us to keep going, knowing that in every step, God is with us. And, in times of tribulation, this trust is like the rudder of a ship in the middle of a storm, guiding us to a safe harbor, which brings us to the next point. Trusting in God is like trusting a captain who guides his ship through a storm. In moments of uncertainty and difficulty, it's easy to feel adrift, surrounded by high waves and seemingly uncontrollable winds. Imagine yourself at sea, with the boat being violently tossed and visibility blocked by rain. In such a situation, anyone would feel lost and vulnerable. But by trusting in the captain, the heart calms, knowing he understands the storm and knows the safe path. In the same way, trusting in God means surrendering control, recognizing that, even though everything seems confusing, He knows exactly where He is leading us. This metaphor of the ship in the middle of the storm reminds us that, although we can't control circumstances, we can choose whom to trust. When we give the direction of our lives to God, He becomes the captain who, despite the waves and winds, guides us to a safe harbor. Anxiety and fear may arise, as we naturally want to control every detail. However, just as the captain sees beyond the storm, God sees the full picture and knows exactly how to protect us. Learning to trust Him is like letting go of the helm and resting, knowing that, even if we can't see what lies ahead, He already knows each turn, each challenge. However, this trust doesn't mean inaction. Just as sailors on a stormy ship, we continue doing our part, praying, seeking to strengthen our faith, and acting according to God's will. One practice to strengthen this trust is the exercise of surrendering our fears to God. Imagine listing all the concerns weighing on your heart and, in a symbolic act, handing them over to the captain in prayer, asking that He guide each situation. This act of releasing worries is a constant reminder that, even if the storm persists, God is at the helm. This daily exercise of surrender strengthens us, bringing peace to the heart and clarity to face the day. Life often challenges us in overwhelming ways. Anxiety, fear of the future, lack of peace. How many sleepless nights have been spent on such thoughts? The feeling of carrying the weight of the world on one's shoulders is something many can relate to, especially when answers don't come and purpose seems distant. It's precisely at this point that trusting in God makes a difference, and perhaps it's the key you've been looking for without even knowing it. Trusting in God isn't just an abstract idea or a magic formula to solve all problems overnight. The metaphor of the ship in the storm also teaches us to accept that there will be times when we cannot clearly see the way forward. The storm may obscure our vision, but God, like an experienced captain, doesn't need a clear view to know where the destination lies. He knows the course, and it's up to us to accept that as long as we are with Him, we will reach the safe harbor at the right time. This type of trust is built over time, especially in difficulties, when we remember other times God has already guided us out of previous storms. Remembering the moments when He held us in the past strengthens our faith and helps us stay firm, trusting that despite the waves, He will safely lead us to the end of the journey. Strengthening faith is a continuous process built through daily practices, allowing us to deepen our relationship with God and face challenges with a more tranquil and confident heart. One of the most powerful ways to nurture this connection is through prayer. Prayer is more than recited words, it is an intimate conversation in which we can open our hearts and express everything we feel. Whether asking for guidance, giving thanks, or seeking comfort, praying is like reaching out to a friend who is always willing to listen. Setting aside a few minutes in the morning to pray prepares us for the day with peace and purpose, while praying before sleeping allows us to surrender our worries and rest in God. In addition to asking, a valuable practice is the prayer of gratitude, in which we remind God of all He has already done in our lives. This practice can help cultivate a more positive mindset, especially on difficult days. Try practicing a gratitude prayer in the morning, thanking God for small things, like health, a roof over your head, or even the challenges that teach you to grow. This simple yet powerful practice becomes a source of peace, helping us see that even in difficulties, God is by our side. Meditating on Scripture is another fundamental practice to strengthen faith. Setting aside daily time, even if brief, to read the Bible fills us with wisdom and renews our trust in God. Start with passages that speak of trust and faith, like Philippians 4 verse 13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or Psalm 46 verse 1, God is our refuge and strength. In addition to reading, take a moment to reflect on how those verses apply to your life. A practical tip is to keep a spiritual journal, noting down the verses that touched your heart the most and the thoughts that arose while meditating on them. When you feel down, rereading those notes can bring comfort and strength. The practice of daily gratitude also strengthens our faith because it shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have. Instead of worrying about what has yet to happen, listing 3 to 5 reasons for gratitude each day, whether for family, health, friendships, or even small daily joys, helps us recognize God's blessings. This simple practice transforms the way we view difficulties, helping us see each situation through eyes of gratitude and peace. Additionally, by being thankful, we distance ourselves from anxiety, opening space for a stronger faith grounded in divine love and care. Being part of a faith community is also a practice that strengthens the heart. Being alongside others who share a common spiritual quest helps us maintain focus and faith, as we hear testimonies that reinforce the presence and care of God. Whether through Bible study groups, prayer gatherings, or even daily messages of support, a faith community shelters and inspires us. Participating in these meetings, even if virtual, brings a sense of belonging and reminds us that the journey doesn't have to be solitary. The experience of sharing and listening is rich in learning, renewing the confidence that God works in unique ways in each person's life. Finally, practicing silence and meditation on God also strengthens faith. Living at the fast pace of daily life can make us lose sight of what truly matters, and silent meditation brings us back to the present and to contact with God. Taking 5 minutes to sit in silence, breathe deeply, and simply thank God can be revitalizing for the spirit. During this moment of stillness, try to focus solely on the peace and confidence that God is taking care of everything. This practice can be done anywhere, whether at home, at work, or even in a natural setting, where silence and calm connect us to the Creator in a profound and restorative way. These practices, carried out with sincerity, become pillars for facing life's storms with greater confidence. They remind us that our faith grows each day and that, with our heart steadfast in God, there is no challenge or anxiety we cannot overcome. This path, when walked with patience and surrender, guides us to a peace that surpasses all understanding and to an unshakable trust in the purpose God has for our lives. Being surrounded by a faith community is like building a fortress of support and inspiration amid life's challenges. A network of people who share spiritual values gives us a sense of belonging and security, reminding us that we don't have to carry our burdens alone. When we face moments of difficulty or uncertainty, mutual support is essential to renewing our strength. The passage in Hebrews 10 verses 24 to 25 invites us to motivate one another toward love and good deeds, reminding us that we are stronger together. This community offers the encouragement we often lack, helping us keep our faith alive and our trust in God continually renewed. The faith community also plays an important role in strengthening our spirit, especially when our own faith is weakened. Sometimes we go through periods when hope seems distant, and it's in those moments that hearing testimonies from others who have overcome challenges with God's help becomes inspiring. Imagine someone facing a serious financial problem. Hearing stories from other community members who went through the same situation and found a way gives them strength to keep going. This sharing of experiences brings a sense of peace and reminds us that God acts in mysterious ways, using the stories of others to renew our own faith. Participating in regular meetings with a faith community, whether through Bible study groups, collective prayers, or informal gatherings, also helps us feel a deeper connection with God and those around us. These meetings create a safe space where we can express our fears and doubts without fear, knowing we will be heard with empathy. For example, a person who feels anxious about making important decisions may find support in a prayer group, where they receive not only advice based on Scripture but also prayers for God to illuminate their choice. This type of emotional and spiritual support strengthens the heart, reminding us that even in our internal struggles, there are people interceding for us. Moreover, a faith community offers us the opportunity to help and be helped, creating a cycle of kindness and love. Every time we pray for someone or listen to their concerns, we also feel more connected to God's purpose for our lives. This practice of giving and receiving draws us closer to the essence of faith, making us part of something greater. Actively participating, whether through small acts of volunteering, sharing words of encouragement, or even assisting with practical needs of other members, strengthens our own faith. By extending a hand, we realize that as we help others, our own trust in God is renewed, and our lives become richer and more meaningful. The faith community also teaches us about patience and empathy. By walking alongside people at different stages of life and faith, we learn to see how God works in different times and ways for each one. This shared experience reminds us that waiting and spiritual growth are unique and personal processes. When we are surrounded by a community that shares this vision, it is easier to understand that God's timing is perfect, even if we don't always grasp it immediately. This gives us serenity to move forward, knowing that we are all on a learning journey and that God guides our steps, both individually and as part of the same family of faith. Patience in God's timing is a virtue that challenges human logic and requires a deep surrender of trust. Nowadays, we live at a fast pace, where everything seems to have a short deadline, and quick answers become a necessity. But God's timing is different. It is perfect and does not always align with our hurry or immediate desires. Learning to wait for divine timing is one of the greatest acts of faith, as it calls us to let go of control and trust that He knows what is best. The examples of Abraham and Sarah, who waited for the promise of a child, or Joseph, who spent years in trials before seeing his dreams come true, show us that God's timing is always wiser, even if it seems slow to us. This patience involves more than just waiting, it is a state of active trust. Trusting in God's timing means knowing that while we wait, He is working in our favor, preparing every detail with a greater purpose. Sometimes, when our plans seem stalled, God is working in areas we cannot see. Imagine someone waiting for a promotion at work, who, during that waiting time, develops skills and becomes more prepared. Instead of merely waiting, that person can use that time to grow and strengthen themselves, trusting that, at the right moment, everything will happen according to the divine plan. Patience in God transforms waiting into a period of preparation and learning, where He shapes our character and our faith. To cultivate that patience, a powerful practice is to surrender our expectations and timelines to God. Often, we create goals and plan our lives, but forget to include God in that process. Instead of merely setting our own times, we can incorporate prayer, asking God to guide us and for His plans to prevail. This surrender helps us cultivate inner peace because we trust that, even if our plans do not unfold as we imagined, God's purpose is greater. During the waiting, practices such as daily prayer and meditation on biblical promises about patience and trust strengthen our faith. Repeating verses like Isaiah 40 verse 31, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength," helps us remain steadfast and hopeful. Another way to exercise patience in God's timing is to develop the habit of recognizing the blessings of the present. Often, our impatience arises from anxiety about the future, causing us to overlook what we already have. Keeping a gratitude journal is an effective practice to redirect our focus, reminding us that God has already acted in our lives. Instead of constantly looking at what is missing, daily gratitude teaches us to see the present as a gift. Every small detail in life can be viewed as a gift from God, and by cultivating this perspective, we find serenity to wait for what is to come, with hearts full of peace and gratitude. Waiting on God's timing is also learning to trust in the perfection of His plans, even when they do not align with ours. Looking back, we often realize that certain delays were essential for our growth and preparation. This understanding teaches us that, in cultivating patience, we are also building a solid and unshakable faith. God uses those moments to shape us, to strengthen our trust, and to show us that, with patience and faith, we can face any challenge. God's timing always brings something better than we can imagine, and it is that trust that allows us to wait with peace and gratitude, knowing that He is never late. We have reached the end of this journey, but the true challenge begins now, in applying everything you have learned. What will you do with the knowledge about trusting in God, surrendering your anxieties, strengthening your faith, and practicing patience? Each of these steps has the power to transform your life from within. Ask yourself, am I truly willing to live with less anxiety and more peace? This decision can change everything. Imagine what it would be like to wake up each day with more gratitude, feeling the support of your faith and a community that understands you. Now you have the tools to face any storm with confidence, knowing that there is a greater purpose guiding each step. How about starting today? What will you do to cultivate this faith? If you feel that this content has brought you value, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to continue learning. Let's continue together on this path of peace and trust, discovering what God has in store for each of us. Until the next content. As we navigate the complexities of life, the notion of surrendering our worries to God emerges as a vital lifeline. Picture a ship, rocked by turbulent waves, where the captain remains steadfast, guiding the crew through the storm. In our own lives, we often face tumultuous seas filled with anxiety and uncertainty, mirroring the unpredictability of those ocean storms. Yet, just like that captain, God is ever present, steering us towards calm waters. When we relinquish our fears and trust in His guidance, we can embrace a sense of peace that transcends our immediate circumstances. Embracing a lifestyle of faith is akin to setting a daily course. Just as sailors check their compass before setting sail, we must ground ourselves in prayer and gratitude each morning. This practice helps us align with our true north, God's will. Imagine awakening each day with a heart poised to express gratitude, reflecting on the blessings that surround you. By doing so, we not only prepare ourselves for the challenges ahead but also cultivate an environment where joy and purpose can flourish. The act of daily surrender can transform our approach to life's challenges. Consider the metaphor of a garden. With each prayer and act of trust, we plant seeds of faith. These seeds require care, patience, and the right conditions to thrive. Similarly, as we nurture our relationship with God through prayer and community, we foster resilience in our spirits. The more we practice surrender, the more we cultivate an inner garden that blossoms with peace, patience, and unwavering faith. In moments of doubt, remember the strength that lies within the stories of biblical figures. Like Moses parting the Red Sea or David facing Goliath, we can draw inspiration from their unwavering trust in God's plan. Reflect on the challenges they overcame and the faith that anchored them. When faced with our giants, we can remind ourselves that, through God, we too possess the strength to conquer the obstacles before us, fortified by faith and a deep-rooted trust in His goodness. Being part of a faith community amplifies our strength and resolve. Think of a campfire. Each log adds warmth and light, creating a safe space against the dark. In the same way, our faith community provides encouragement and support, illuminating our paths. Sharing experiences and testimonies can ignite our faith and remind us that we are not alone in our struggles. Together, we can create a collective light that dispels the shadows of anxiety, reminding us of God's unwavering presence in our lives. As we integrate these practices into our daily routines, let's visualize our progress like a ship gradually steering toward its destination. Each act of gratitude, each prayer, and each moment spent in fellowship are navigational points guiding us toward a fulfilling life in alignment with God's purpose. Reflect on your journey and consider how far you've come. Each small step contributes to the grand tapestry of your spiritual growth, intertwining with the threads of others' journeys in our faith community. In conclusion, the call to trust, surrender, and embrace a life of gratitude and service is not merely a suggestion, it is an invitation to experience the fullness of God's love. As we embark on this journey, let us carry the image of the ship and its steadfast captain in our hearts. Remember that as we trust in God's guidance, we are not only finding our way through the storms but also becoming vessels of His light and love in the world. So, set your sails today, trust in His plans, and navigate with faith toward the abundant life He has promised you.